It's time for another episode of The Cheat Sheet.
The podcast where we interview top VCE performers
And deconstruct the strategies they use to achieve incredible results at school and in life.
Guys and girls, welcome. Steve here, and I have the pleasure of having with me not a past VCE student, but a current VCE student who is rocking the universe, Sara Doan. Sara is the vice captain of Bowen High School, and in year 11 she smashed her VCE subject, legal studies, bagging a 50. Sara, welcome.
Thanks, Steve.
It's great to have you here, mate, and it's going to be really valuable for everyone listening to sort of hear about how you went about sort of achieving such a great result, how you've managed being school vice captain, and what your plan is for year 12. Awesome.
It sounds good.
Alrighty, so let's get straight into it. So let's get the legal studies questions out of the way first, right? So you got a 50 in legal studies. How did you approach that, or did you know that was what you were going to get going into the subject?
So I, before I started the subject, I set a goal. I set my goal to 48, so pretty, I guess, ambitious, and I didn't actually think I was going to get there probably at the very start. So the reason why I set that goal was because I was pursuing law at Monash University, which is an ATAR of 98. So I was thinking, if I do really well in legal, then there's higher chance of me getting that 98 ATAR. So I set a goal of 48, and I actually did another subject as well. I did accounting, and I set the goal of 47 for that one. And I got to that goal as well. So that was cool. So the way I went about it was I just made sure for every SAC that I was aiming for 100%. I know that's overly ambitious, some would say, but that was just what I needed for my study score goal.
Okay, so the SACs are an interesting component, and I didn't know before now that you got over 40s. What did you get for accounting? What was your score?
I was lucky enough to get a 49.
Jeepers. Guys and girls at home, listen. We've got a superstar in our midst. How fantastic.
No. So
you were saying about your SACs. So SACs are obviously really important because they form a major component of your score, and those combined with your exam results obviously make the study score that you get for the subject.
Yeah, definitely. So it was a 50% split for SACs and exams. So both, I guess, equally important. Probably the exam was a bit more important, but yeah, so I just made sure I sort of knew all my content for the SACs, did heaps of practice questions, probably pestered my teacher too much with getting her to check over my questions. And I sort of made sure, throughout the time we were learning the content, I'd sort of show her, a practice question for every, topic or heading under that area of study. So she probably got a bit sick of me showing her all the questions, but that's okay. I got a 50, so. So I did that, and then I got, I was lucky enough to get quite good SAC results. So that was really good. I think my average was probably, a bit in the high range. And then leading up to the exam, I think I took a week or something, because I only had 2, 3, 4 subjects, unlike year 12s who have 5. So I took a week to just memorize all the content for the year for legal studies. And I just focused on that week doing that. So then after that, I started my practice exams. So I think in total, I had this Excel spreadsheet, which was really helpful. I think I did 30 practice exams,
wow.
Each for legal and for accounting. And just because I was blessed enough with time, I could do that. And then walked in the exam and just wrote down what I thought. And this guy once told me, who gave us a motivational speech in year 12, he said he got a great ATAR, and he said that if you do a practice exam one every day, then when you go in the exam, it's as if you were just sitting another practice exam. So I sort of went in that mentality, and that sort of calmed me down a bit in the exam. So when I finish the exam, it's as if I've done this before, it's not a really scary thing, because I've been doing that for the past 30 days. If that makes sense.
Fantastic. So it sounds like what you've hit is you've hit a bucket load of gold there. But what you're saying is that you've really set this up from the start in terms of really good habits of study, as well as utilizing your teachers. So your teachers obviously a massive component to this, and they're obviously happy to be given work to review, and you're throwing that work at them, so you're taking effort there, which is fantastic. And then obviously just being consistent every week, going through material, learning coursework, learning the content, and then applying that content through the use of practice exams and things like that.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
That's awesome. All right, so another great thing that you mentioned is coming into VCE, did you already know that you wanted to study law?
Yeah, so I was thinking about law. It was probably the only thing I guess I was passionate about at that time. So at the moment, I'm still pursuing that dream, I guess. So I'm thinking of studying law with another degree at hopefully Monash. So when I finish school. I did have that law goal in mind just because I had done 1-2 legal studies the year before and I really, really liked it. So that was my goal, and that's why I set my study scores so high.
Fantastic. So knowing that coming into VCE and doing your legal studies 1-2, did knowing that you wanted to do law at university, did that affect other subjects that you picked in terms of did you choose some and keep some off the list of subjects that you're doing this year in year 12? Yeah,
so law depends what double degree you do it with, but it doesn't really have any prerequisites, I guess. And you have to do English and get a decent study score on that. But other than that, you don't need like maths or science or anything. So I decided I sort of had a choice just in terms of subjects. I could decide like what maths level, because there's further methods and specialists I could sort of do, and I knew I was sort of decent at maths, but I didn't really enjoy it that much.
Okay.
And since I didn't need it as a prerequisite, then I chose to do further maths. So that I'm doing that now as a 3-4 subject, and I'm really liking that. But I knew that if I did like methods or specialists, I probably wouldn't have liked it as much. So I'm glad I made that decision. In terms of other subjects, I'm doing mainstream English, which is, I guess the typical English choice of people. So that's why I did it. I'm doing psychology because that really interests me.
Right.
And I'm also doing music. So music is an interesting one because music is not a typically, like, people don't do it to get high marks because it's, I guess if you think about it, like, it's out of all the talented musicians, you've got the most talented musicians all competing for, I guess, a top mark. So it's quite difficult to get, I guess, high marks. Not saying that people don't, but it's not a subject that's typically known for that. But I did that because I was like really passionate about it. And actually, funny story, I actually didn't originally have music on my list, and 10 minutes before I had my course selection, I changed it because I was like, I'm really passionate about this, and I want to be walking into my classes liking them, because it's always like, I don't want to go to school, which is already something that you're not usually hyped up for, and go to classes that I don't like. So and it's easier to, I guess, study for subjects that you like anyway. So
fantastic. Yeah. So what we picked up there, and it's fantastic to hear this, is that not only have you got a goal for the university course that you want to get into, and you already executed really 2 subjects to put in the bank and work towards that by following your great study habits, but you've also then picked subjects that are interesting and exciting as a way of getting an enjoyment and having a great time at school, using that time really well, but still through being passionate and enjoying those subjects, you'll still get a great score as well. So, and for those at home, further maths it's not easy. It's not easy. Everyone seems to think that further maths is the cop-out maths that you take because you don't want to do, hardcore level of methods or spec, but it's different, isn't it?
Yeah, no, definitely. Like, we just got our SAC scores back for further maths, and people, I guess, who do methods and specialists have sort of done, like, a couple of people have done further maths as just like a fill-in subject. But what I've noticed is that because they, I guess, think it's so easy, they're not getting as good marks as perhaps they thought they did. I mean, that's only a couple of people, but yeah, it's a good subject.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's look at it. Let's look at the other components of your high school life. Is you were fortunate enough, you go to Bowen High, which
Yeah,
Pretty
very
cool school.
lucky. Yeah.
And not only lucky enough to be a student there who's doing really well, you've also been selected as the vice school captain for this year, which out of all the students I know, because I go there and run workshops a fair bit, there's 2,000 plus students at Bowen High, and you're one of 3 sitting at the top of the leadership food chain. How did you find applying and getting that vice school captain position?
Yeah, so I've been involved with leadership quite a bit, I guess, in my primary school and high school life. So I thought like school captain or vice school captain was always, I guess, a goal of mine, or something that I always knew I was probably going to apply for. So when that application process came, I tried to write up my application as well as I could and wrote a speech as well as I could, I guess. And and then the interview process, luckily I got through to interviews, and the interview process was quite, I guess, familiar. And the leadership staff at Bowen are really great and making you feel comfortable, so that was good. And so I guess I was lucky enough to get the position, and it's been great so far.
Fantastic. Now I'm just doing the maths in my head. So you've structured your VCE very well, very similar to back to almost 12 years ago when I did my VCE. I did 2 year 3-4 subjects in year 11.
Cool.
To deliberately free up year 12 to only have 4 subjects. So that's similar to what you've done as well. Still, leadership position at school, music commitments, because that's obviously you need to rehearse. It's a little bit more than study for music, I'm assuming. And still your goal to achieve a 98 plus ATAR. How do you manage your time, and what sort of strategies and recommendations do you have for people listening in at home for managing your time through VCE?
So if I could, I guess, try to sum it up, I just try to prioritize. I think that my schedule is usually really busy, and I have, music commitments weekly, like choir every week, because I need to do that as part of my subject, and, singing lessons and leadership meetings and stuff like that. I think that something I always try to remember is I'm going to school for an education. So I think that, if it's a day before the SAC or 2 days before the SAC, I have to put my school commitments first. But if not, then I think that before you go into those subjects, so before I went into music or before I applied for a leadership position, I think you have to realize that there is some level of commitment there, and you have to, if there's something on, then you have to go to it, and you just sort of have to arrange your time around that. In terms of how that practically looks like, I really like schedules and lists, and I find that keeps me a lot more accountable than if I wasn't to write a list or write a schedule, because I'm just like, I've done sort of a good amount of work, but you really know that you haven't. So every day usually I go home, write a list, and write an actual schedule, like 3:30 I'm doing this, 4:30 I'm doing this. Wow. And I know a lot of people don't like that, but I find that it helps me be a lot more productive. So I do that, and on the weekends, for the majority of the time I do study, but I think it's really good. Usually I try to plan things at night time, like either with my friends or, my boyfriend, or like co-curricular activities. And I try to plan things at night time so that you can sort of study for the whole day and look forward to that. Mm-hmm. So I think that's another practical thing you can do. And also, I think it's really good to have someone who can keep you accountable. So for me, that's my boyfriend. So if I say that I'm going to do an hour of study and I'm not talking to you for an hour because I'm studying, then, it's sort of expected that you do an hour, and he'll ask me like, how did your study go? So you obviously, when you're studying, you don't want to have to say, I didn't study in that hour. Having an accountability buddy, I guess, is really good as well.
Fantastic. Guys, I think it's really obvious just speaking and hearing how Sarah's answering and approaching all of the questions and how she's going about a VCE, that she's managed to keep her personality in check as well, instead of just losing it to the study and the computer and the textbooks, which can happen if you just apply yourself too much through VCE and get too caught up in the study. So work-life study balance is really important. Sarah, just to finish up, if you had one bit of advice to give to the students that are either in year 11 starting their first couple of 3-4s, or in year 12 looking to really achieve great marks like yourself, what would be the biggest tip or the biggest suggestion you could give them?
I think that you always have to remember to keep things in perspective. A couple of sack marks at the time, I know, seem really distressing if you've lost them, but I think in the major scheme of things that it won't affect your life that much. Something I always think about is it'll be really great if I got my 8 out of 98, or if I, got my study score goals. But if I don't, the world is not going to end. My life is still going to be good. I still will have my friends and my family. So that's something definitely important to keep in mind. But also on the other side of that, I think that you've been given this opportunity to be educated, and not the majority of the world, or some people in the world, aren't giving that opportunity at all. And some people, can't write or can't speak because they can't afford it or whatever. So I think that because you've been given that opportunity, you really need to, put in effort into it and just try your hardest. I'd hate to finish VCE and be like, I could have done better. So that's, something else to keep in mind as well.
Fantastic. Sarah, we're definitely going to be catching up again at the end of year 12. So come around December the 13th when we find out that you've topped the state and you've got the ATAR that you want. We look forward to obviously seeing you later on and how you get on. Hopefully you're very confident, I think, based on your approach and your already fantastic results, that you will get into law and be able to realize your dream there of becoming a lawyer. And hey, thanks so much for being with us today, and we really appreciate it.
Thanks so much. See ya.
Like this episode?
Head to thecheatsheet.net.au for show notes, real-life cheat sheets, and links to our social media pages. Thanks for listening.